Right, now today is Sunday, and every Sunday you're gathered here. As Sunday is a holiday, right? Now we all love holidays. I'm sure many of you know the word holiday originally came from what word? Holy day. Originally it was a holy day. Okay? All these holidays started with religious festivals. 6 days we work, so the seventh day we're supposed to rest, go to some religious place. No? And this was common in India also, around once a week, at least once a fortnight. People spend the holiday in the monasteries with the monks, observing precepts. So this, somehow over time, due to partly bad spelling, the English were never good with their spelling originally, right? So holy day become a holiday, and so on. Okay, well, it's good. Of course, nowadays you find it's not just Sunday that's holiday; it could be any other day. But for Buddhists, there are fixed days. We follow what's called the lunar calendar, following the movement of the moon. So we have kind of full moon, new moon days, and many of you know that, right? Full moon day is usually the first day of the fortnight, okay, according to the lunar calendar. So they go by 2 weeks, following the phases, the stages of the moon. Then the 15th day or 14th day, the moon is the brightest, and that's the kind of happiest day for Buddhists. Now, so when we talk about Uposatha, we're talking about this kind of days. We're talking about the holy days. We're talking about a special day that Buddhists behave like the Arahats. We are reminded how the Arahats live, and that we also can emulate the Arahats. So I've been given quite a tall order to the history of Uposatha practices. I mean, history is quite tough to talk about. From the Buddha's time, there's not much history, really. Of course, whatever is history here will be found in the Vinaya, in the suttas, and they're very interesting, which you will find out in a moment. And of course, the benefits of keeping the Uposatha. For those of you wondering what Uposatha means, the simple translation is observance, or precept day, if you like. So the Uposatha is the observance and also refers to the day. Okay, so there are many suttas, actually, about half a dozen suttas dealing with this important topic. But the key one is given on your screen. It's called, it was simply called Uposatha Sutta. Now, there are many Uposatha suttas. So in my translation project, I realized we have to make the names unique. So I put identifiers, brackets in front of them. Then here, it's very easy to remember, tada. Originally the word is tadahu, okay? If you can't remember, just say tada, that sound like a trumpet sound. So it's very easy. This is a very important Uposatha Sutta. So tada Uposatha Sutta, all right? If you can't remember the name is too long, it is A, Anguttara Nikaya, the Book of Threes, Sutta 70, A370, right? So, Tadahu means this day, or that day, if you like, okay? Which is the Uposatha day. And it's a very long and wonderful sutta which tells you all how to practice it, how did the other religions practice it, what are the benefits, and so on. Today I'm just giving you the essence of it, all right? So in ancient India, we have 3 seasons. You have the winter around October to March, summer is April to July, and monsoon comes around August to September. That's when the rains come. So we are approaching the rains. I'm sure some of you know, if you're close to the monks, around August, September. Yeah? Around a few more months, actually, the rains will come. It's a 3 months rains retreat, right? And the monks will be staying in one place. The Buddhists follow a 3 months calendar, 4 lunar months for each of them, and each month is, altogether are 8 fortnights, right? And as I mentioned to you, the new moon and full moon are very important. That's when the people gathered together. At first, the Buddhists, the monks didn't do anything. They kind of just went on meditating. You got to imagine, the Buddha started teaching the Dhamma. People started joining the monks. They became monks and nuns. They didn't do anything. They just sat meditated, right? Whereas the other religionists, every full moon, new moon day, they would gather together and teach their teaching, also called Dharma. Dharma simply means teaching. So King Bimbisara noticed this, right? So he said, wow, look at this. The Jains and the wanderers, they give talks during these full moon, new moon days, and they got so many followers. People have faith and join them. So the Buddha should do this too. Now, as you know, King Bimbisara, he's a historical figure. He lived during the late 5th century. He's a very devout supporter of the Buddha. You might say he's the Buddha's first good friend. They were kind of around the same age. They were childhood friends. And in fact, Bimbisara wanted Siddhartha to be his commander-in-chief. He was going to conquer countries. But of course, Siddhartha, the Bodhisattva, said, no, I've already decided to renounce the world. Then Bimbisara said, okay, in that case, when you awaken, you please come back to visit me first. The Buddha said, all right. The Bodhisattva said, all right. So he came to see Bimbisara. Bimbisara donated the bamboo grove, if you remember. And Bimbisara later became a stream winner. So he was kind of very close to the Buddha. So you notice all these religious people meeting on full moon, new moon days and getting lots of followers. So he told the Buddha, why don't you get the monks to assemble? The Buddha said, all right, that's a good idea. So the monks assemble. There's one thing about the monks, they're very disobedient. They were very obedient, so they only do what the Buddha says. They're all arahats, so they're not interested in doing extra new things. They're quite happy just meditating. So they sat down quietly, and the people came. Nothing happened. So the people were not too happy. They complained. Then the Buddha said, all right, Actually, King Bimbisara also came and suggested, why don't you get the monks to talk Dhamma? He said, okay. The Buddha said, let the monks talk Dhamma. So that's the next stage. On Uposatha days, the full moon, new moon days, the monks gathered together, the people of congregation gathered around, the monks talk Dhamma. Then later on, the Buddha introduced something new. This probably a little later on, when there were many other monks who were not arahats. This is the second stage, a very important stage in the history of the Sangha. So these monks gathered together, so the Buddha said, you must recite the monks' rules, the Patimokkha, the code of rules. So here, there are two kinds of Patimokkha we should be aware of, all right? So now I'm going a little bit back in history of the Sangha. The first Uposatha gathering was much earlier. In fact, we are quite certain when, according to the suttas. Now, you remember the Buddha taught the first discourse. This was during the Asaha Puja. He taught the 5 monks, and then they all became arahats. And then the Buddha kind of moved around and taught, converted many more people. Then 7 months later, okay, 7 months later, during the month of Magha. It's very easy to remember. Magha is around Chap Gomeng, okay, the Chinese 15th day of Chinese New Year, last day of Chinese New Year, right? So about 7 months later, something interesting happened. This is called the Magha Puja celebration. So this is where we have 1,250 arahats assembled together, just like that, to meet the Buddha. So this is the first wonderful event. It was the full moon day. Full moon day is the first important event. Number 2, 1,250 monks, all arahats, came to see without any appointment. They just kind of naturally gravitated and went to see the Buddha. And number 3, there were all arahats who were directly ordained by the Buddha, by what is called the Ehi Bhikkhu Upasampada. See, those early days, they were all arahats. They were all arahats, certainly during the first year. the Buddha teaches the Dharma, this person awakens. Then the Buddha say, "Come, O monk," just like that. Because they're already de facto monks, they're already in fact monks, the renunciants, because they're arahats. So all the Buddha needed was touch his hand and say, "Come, O monks," either in the singular ehi bhikkhu or in the plural eta bhikkhave, right? So they're all directly ordained by the Buddha, 1,250 of them, all right? And so these are the four wonderful things. No? So the Buddha is very happy. I mean, these arahats, they don't need rules. They will naturally never break the precepts. So the Buddha introduced a very interesting Patimokkha to them. It is a very famous verse from Dhammapada 183. All right? 183 is very easy to remember because there's this bus number 183 near our house. So whenever I see 183, I say, aha. Sabba papasa akaranang kusalasa upasampada sachitta paryodapanang etam buddhana sasanang. I think some of you also memorized this already, right? What does it mean? Not doing anything bad, cultivating the good or the wholesome, purifying one's own mind. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas. There were two other verses, okay? But this first verse is very famous. So that's all the Buddha said. This is called the Ovada Patimokkha, the Patimokkha by way of advice. They're all arahats. So the Buddha kind of rejoiced with them, say, well, this is the summary of the teachings. But later on, these monks, the 60 monks went out in different directions, and they brought back thousands of converts. And many of them were not yet arahats. So the Buddha did not ordain, as far as I understand, the Buddha did not ordain any non-arahats. These were all ordained by the monks and nuns themselves. So this is a very important stage in development of the Sangha where the Buddha allowed the monks to ordain other monks. In sociology, we call this rationalizing the charisma. In other words, the Buddha he kind of transferred some of his power to the Sangha, or in law we say he turns the Sangha into a legal person. The Sangha can ordain other persons, other people as monks and nuns. But there's a problem here. They're not awakened, so they're bound to make mistakes, right? So that's when the Vinaya started coming in, the rules started building up, okay? So you have another Patimokkha. Now, of course, looking back, we know there are, for the monks, 227 rules. And the monks will recite these rules. And these rules are the core that defines a monk. And if we break these rules, then of course, there'll be no more monks. Then you have only 2 jewels left, right? So this Vinaya, these rules, this Patimokkha is very important. So this Patimokkha is recited during Uposatha days, in the morning usually. I remember when I was in Thailand, I was a monk, we would gather, and we all sit close together. There's a special way of sitting. We say sit in conclave. So in other words, you're able to touch the next person within arm's length. So in fact, we have to sit very close together. The shrine hall may be not very big. We sit very close together, and the reciter is in the center. He will recite the rules of the Patimokkha from memory, okay? And of course, there will be a prompter with someone with a big palm leaf sitting beside the chair and listening to him. The moment he says something wrong, the prompter will say, up, he will recite the right Pali words, and then the reciter will correct himself. Of course, we as young monks, we just love those reciters who recite fast, because we finish faster. Otherwise, you sit there for like 1 hour in one, the Thai style of with the leg on one side, Anyway, so this is the special event where the monks are reminded they are monks, the recital of the Patimokkha on the Uposatha day. This is the highlight of the Uposatha day for the monks. But today I'm going to talk about Uposatha for the lay people, all right? So the lay people will gather that day also. After this event, then they will recite the 8 precepts. And then maybe they will give dana. Of course, the monks love that day. They get extra food, nice food. And maybe the lay people also would meditate that day. Listen to Dhamma talks, of course, right? So these are some of the things they usually do. So this is where, what do we do on precept day? normally people dress in white, okay, if you like, but I think in Singapore we were quite open about these things. So if there are precept days, of course, you have to come with this prepared mind that you have come for a retreat, like a retreat, full moon, new moon days, yeah? And the 8 precepts will tell you what to do, basically, all right? So the 3 trainings are there, right? So first you keep the precepts. That's why we normally recite the precepts first. Like that's the Sila Sikha, training in precepts. And then we do some meditation, right? That is the second training, Samadhi Sikha. And then now you listen to a talk to maybe stimulate some wisdom in you. That is Panya Sikha, training in wisdom, right? Sila, Samadhi, Panya, the 3 trainings, okay? So we do that a little bit more intensely during Uposatha days. So now I'm going to go through the 8 precepts. How do you keep them? Why are the 8 precepts there? And what are the benefits, okay? All right, first of all, the first 5 are, of course, very similar to the 5 precepts, except for the third. Okay, the third is a little more strict. But let me give you a very important understanding first of why the 5 precepts, because everything boils down to the 5 precepts, including the Vinaya. The first precept is against killing. Second, against taking not given, stealing. Third is against sexual misconduct. The fourth, against lying. And then the last one is not to cloud up, not to intoxicate yourself, not to cloud out your mind. Ask ourselves, why 5 precepts? Let me just give a quick summary. You ask yourself this question: what is the most important thing that we value? Answer would be life. Life, everyone values life. Without life, there's nothing else. Right? So the first precept protects the value of life. This is universal. In fact, the 5 precepts are universal moral principles. Okay. Then, now we have life. Okay, we have this human life, but then we need to work, to live, to be happy, right? We all work, we have money, we buy things, we have things. So if someone were to take away all these things, then it's not fair to us. It's not fair to anyone. Then if everybody steals, no one will work. Then there'll be no human life possible. So to put it very simply, stealing is wrong for that simple reason, because we need support of life, support for life. And we have the right to the fruits of our work. Now the third precept, basically it's about freedom. Although it talks about sexuality, the Buddha purposely pinpoints sexuality because it is the worst case of disrespect towards a person's freedom. So the third precept is about the freedom of your person, the respect for your person. You have the right to say no, basically. So the right to say no means freedom. So in that sense, we can talk of the third precept as highlighting the value of personal freedom. And the fourth precept is, of course, truth. Right? It's against lying. It's truth, because all this that we have stated so far must be true, otherwise it won't work. And then the fifth precept is you have to, the whole idea of all these 4 precepts is to make your mind clear so that you can go on to the next step, build up your mind, free your mind, cultivate wisdom. So there you are. These are the 5 precepts in 5 minutes. Yeah. So now, the third precept, according to this sutta, the Uposatha Sutta, is to practice the celibate life. Okay. Now, before I talk about this celibate life, let me just give you an idea of how the Uposatha precepts are practiced from this Tada Uposatha Sutta. It goes like this. This is the first precept. Giving up harming any living beings, abstaining from harming any living beings, having laid aside rod and sword, conscientious, kind, I dwell compassionate towards all living beings. So the way this sutta frames the precept is very clear how you're going to practice it. The 5 precepts we recite are like a summary. right? So it's good to know the details here. And there's one more important line for every one of these 8 precepts, that is, the Arhats also practice this, and I'm going to emulate the Arhats this day and night. So this is where practicing the precepts is not just keeping the precepts. You are emulating the lifestyle of the Arhats. Isn't that wonderful? So this gives you a bit of extra inspiration, I'm sure, when you practice the precepts. You are living just like the Arhats, so to speak. Yeah? All right, so the 3rd precept here says, giving up in celibacy, I live a celibate life, dwelling alone, abstaining from coupling, the way of the world. This is just like living like a monk or a nun, basically, right? So you imagine we're talking about the lay people of the Buddha's time. They were very pleasure-loving. So this is one day they stay away from worldly pleasures, kind of just be themselves. So it's not just about sex here, it's about your body as a whole, okay? Now, you all love Sunday because you can come here on your own free will. Nobody forced you to come here, I hope not. I mean, you're very happy to be here. Other days, after this Monday, Monday you got to go to work, you're forced to do things, just for some money, right? We got to do that. That's the way of the world, you see? So this day makes us truly happy because we have this sense of freedom, all right? And then we have families. Even today, you are happy here, then you got to go back to your families, you have your duties at home and so on. So this special day, Uposatha day, is where you basically renounce the world temporarily. In fact, many people don't see that way, One way of putting it is, if in one word you can summarize the whole of Buddhist practice, that one word is renunciation. Now, I can tell you something interesting here. No one taught me this, and I was quite surprised why those 50 years of studying Buddhism, no one taught me this. But the suttas taught me this. When I studied all the suttas, I said, wow, all the time we look at all these suttas, it's actually about renunciation on different levels. The first level is by you sitting right here, right now, you have renounced your home. You have come here today to spend time here. You need not have done that. So temporarily you have renounced your home. You have given up that home for a while. You could have stayed home, do your thing, you're very happy perhaps, but here you're sitting down, you've got to sit a certain way, you've got to listen to talks, and so on, right? This is a small renunciation. And then later you go for retreats, again, a bigger renunciation. Retreats, you have 1 or 2 meals a day only, you meditate, you do many other things in moral virtue, mental training, right? And you notice in meditation also, it's even a higher level of renunciation. You sit very peacefully. Why do you sit very peacefully? So that you let go of your body, the 5 senses. And then you watch your breath. Come in, goes out, come in, go. You're letting go of your breath also. What are you renouncing most of all in meditation? You're renouncing your thoughts, your views. Whatever we learn, even the best teachings in the Dhamma, you give them up when you're meditating. You just set them aside for a while. View-free mind, thought-free mind, that's what meditation aims for, basically. So that's another kind of renunciation. Of course, the monks also renounce the world. But that's a formal kind, a conventional kind of renunciation to remind them of a quicker way to attain all these higher levels of peace. All right? So the monks also keep the precepts, meditate, and so on. And then as you progress through life as a Buddhist, you find you let go of more and more things. Your life becomes simpler, and you become happier that way too. So the renunciation is a very important aspect of Buddhism in that sense. It's not just putting on the robes, changing your hairstyle. It is changing your lifestyle to a simpler lifestyle. All right, so notice the third precept has quite a lot of implications. of true personal freedom. Now, we've talked about the fourth precept, the fifth precept, drinks, letting go of drinks. I think you have heard a lot of this in the other talks on the 5 precepts. Now, number 6 is eating only 1 meal a day. I abstain from eating at night and from untimely meals. For many of us say, wow, I'm not sure I can do that. We all enjoy eating night suppers and stuff, right? Well, here it's only during those precept day, during retreats. And when you do that, you find a certain lightness to yourself when you cut down on food because you don't need so much food. Now, to take just 1 meal a day, as strict monks do, it's not easy, Because if you do a lot of physical work, you can't take 1 meal a day. When you go for retreat as retreatants or you come here for the new moon, full moon days, basically you calm yourself down. So you just need 1 meal a day because you don't exert yourself physically. You mostly be meditating. And then you find you're getting slimmer. It's a great way to slim yourself, great way to stay healthy without wasting too much money, by the way. So this is everything in one package. No? So eating 1 meal a day is for your health, to cut down, to help your mind clear itself, right? Because if you have too much food, you get sleepy, you have to meditate, right? So the idea is health, psychologically for a clearer mind, and also for the monks economically, so that lay people, it's not a burden for lay people to support them. Okay, then number 7, I abstain from dancing, singing, music, watching unseemly shows, and from wearing and adorning myself with garlands, scents, and cosmetics. Right, this is number 7. Of course, monks don't wear all these things. But during the retreat, during the precept day, same thing. We don't. Why is it that we don't dance and sing or listen to music on precept day? I mean, you take this precept. By the way, please understand, I'm not saying this is a rule that no Buddhist should listen to music on Uposatha days. No, we're not saying that. If you take the precept, you must undertake the precept. Okay? In other words, you're telling yourself, today I'm going to restrict myself of these extra things. I'm not going to sing and dance and listen to music or watch my favorite show and so on. Because you're going to focus on the present moment. It's not that dancing, singing are bad. You renounce those things for a while so you can focus on yourself. Always remember that you want to focus on yourself, simplify your life. Because you listen to music, other feelings arise and you have to deal with them, right? So our 5 senses go in 5 different directions, and then the mind also goes in its own 5 directions, right? And then we dress simply. We don't have to wear adornments. Why do we adorn ourselves? Why do we comb our hair, look nice? We want to impress other people, right? Of course, the older we grow, the simpler we get. So we don't need to impress other people. The younger people need to do that. But when you go for a retreat, you don't have to impress anyone. You just go there for your inner self, for your inner peace. So simplicity. Rule number 8. Giving up high and luxurious beds, I abstain from high and luxurious beds. Using a low bed, that is a small bed, or a straw mat. So everything is given to you here. It's quite clear what to do. Now here again, kings use nice and big beds. So this, in other words, you're just there to rest. Now how does the Buddha go to bed? He lies down and he mentally says, okay, I'm going to get up tomorrow at a certain time. So he knows his time, right? And good monks also do that. So they just rest the body. And you find that if you practice Dhamma more and more, especially meditation, you need less sleep. Somehow there is that energy. I mean, you don't lose energy because you are not stressed up. You are less stressed up even, and you are more happy, right? It is said that gods feed on joy. And that is why I keep telling you, smile, smile, smile. And there are other teachers who tell you to do that too, I'm sure. Because if you don't, you're going to be stressed out. And if you are stressed out, you're going to lose a lot of energy. Normally you can do a lot of things, a lot of good work and so on. You're very happy, smiling. Then suddenly you met someone who's really nasty. We call this a toxic person. Suddenly you lose all your energy, right? You notice that? Some people can make you lose energy, right? So there you are. A negative thought can make you lose your energy. Whereas if you have loving kindness, you have peace of mind through breath meditation, you find there's all this energy. Those of you who have been following the suttas, you know the sutta discovery started right here in this hall. Well, not this hall actually, I don't know. We have been moving many places when I was with you all. For some 10 years, we moved like to half a dozen places. And it started in 2002. And the sutta translation, actually, 2002, then every day there was some translation work going on for 16 years now. And we got like 10,000 pages of suttas in 60 volumes. So I told myself, wow, how did this happen? You just feel joyful and curious when you want to translate the sutta. What is the Buddha saying here? And then one thing leads to another. So whatever you do, you must have joy. You come here to help, to do social service, to help around here. Make sure you're happy. If you're not happy, do some loving kindness. Or ask someone who's happy, say, hey, how do I be happy? You got to learn to do it. Now the good thing is, I notice when you come here, there are people who usher, welcome. That's very important. People come because you're friendly. Right? And they are quite sad before they come here. So when they come here, they feel happy, they feel good. That's very important. Okay. So I finished all these 8 precepts. Now this last part is, what are the benefits of keeping the precepts and keeping the Uposatha, for example? If you take precepts from the monks, I followed a Thai tradition those days. At the end of it, the monks will always recite a short verse when the precepts have been taken. The monks will say, Silena sugating yanti, silena bhoga sampada, silena nibuting yanti, tasma silang visodhaye. The first line means, moral virtue brings you to heaven. What does this mean? If you look at this sutta, the Tadahu Uposatha Sutta, the last section tells you about the rebirth in the various heavens, how long their lifespan is, and so on. So this is one of the worldly benefits of keeping precepts. To keep the precepts also is to live like the gods. Of course, the aim of the Buddhists is not just to be born in heaven, because if you only use your good karma and you are reborn in heaven, it's like snake and ladders. Now you know the game snake and ladders, right? It's a Buddhist game. It was invented in India. It teaches us the law of karma. Right now we say, oh yeah, it makes sense now, right? You see, so you do all the good karma, you climb up the ladder. Wow, that's good karma, okay? You go from 1 to 10, all right? And suddenly you got a bad throw, you go to a snake's head. Zoom, you go back to 1, right? So that's bad karma. So it's a very popular game known not only to the Buddhists, to the Jains and other Indians too. So no matter how good your karma is, you go to heaven, you will still come down. And as they say, the higher you go, the harder you fall. And those people whose good karma are gone in the heavens, they go straight to hell. And this is not something the Guru says in his founder suttas. However, if you are a stream winner, even if you go to heaven, you may come back to earth, happy rebirth, but you will never go below go into the subhuman states. You'll always be on the human level. You'll be living in the environment which is conducive to practice. So that's the good thing about aspiring to be stream winners. So that you stay above all these suffering states. Because these suffering states, you can't really practice the Dharma. So much violence, so much ignorance, and so on. Okay? So heaven is good, yes, but you should well prepare before you go there. Silena Bhoga Sampada, moral virtue grants you wealth. If you are morally virtuous, you'll be rich. Wow, sounds quite worldly, you might say, right? I mean, you don't become wealthy just by keeping precepts alone. I don't know, some people might, you know. The point is, people trust you more if they know you are good. All right? So this is where the Dhammapada says, the wind blows away even the sweetest perfume, but the perfume of moral virtue can never be blown away by the wind. It goes against the wind. Goes against the wind, that means you become well-known and respected. And people trust you, your business will prosper. So moral virtue is very important. Now we see in Singapore, and our newspapers can get interesting sometimes, you know, some of these great guys, even lawyers, you know, they couldn't stand the temptation of $10 million, let's say. Say, wow, I don't have to work anymore. And they run away with 10 million. But then they have to hide. You have to go into the underworld. You have to go to the subhuman plane. It's not your money. So if you fall for that one moment of immorality, that's the end of your career. When I was giving talks in the NUS, every year, those years for 10 years, I always make one statement to them at some point. I tell them, you're going to be great professionals one day, you're going to make a lot of money. But remember, one wrong action will make you lose everything. Just remember, if you forget all these things I've told you about suttas and so on, just remember one thing. This is not yours. This is what the Buddha told Moggallana. He says, nothing in this world is yours. So don't take it. That will save your professional life. Right? So this is a reminder by the Buddha to live in the present. That moral virtue makes you feel contented and happy with simplicity, what you really need. What you want, there will never be enough of it. In Buddhism, the 4 basic needs, the pachayas, food, clothing, shelter, and what's the last one? Health, yeah? So these are the 4 basic things we need, all right? So more than this is extra, all right? So that is why in the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, contentment is the greatest wealth. Because if you are not contented, no matter how much you have, you'll never be happy. There's a difference between being and having. Whatever you have, you will never have enough of it. Because whatever you have is not yours. Have means there's a separation. Here you are, that's the thing over there. The relationship is have. But in meditation, the word is bhavana. Bhavana means to be. It's the noun for to be. So if you are happy, all right? Being happy, no one can take that away from you. You don't say, I have happiness. You say, I am happy. There's a big difference. I am happy means it's inside you. You naturally feel it. I have happiness, it is something out there, maybe a new car, and the car gets smashed, there goes your happiness, right? So this is the big difference. So contentment is the greatest wealth here. The third one, silenandi bhuting yanti. Moral virtue brings you nirvana. Now, moral virtue does not directly brings you nirvana, but it's definitely a basis. You know, you should see the 3 trainings as a pyramid. Okay? Moral virtue is at the bottom, it's the foundation. So foundation, that means it pervades all the other 2 trainings. Second training is meditation, mental training, mindfulness. Now today, you know, meditation is very popular. You find it worldwide, even among professionals. But the problem is this, I mean, you can meditate, you know, but if you do not have the moral basis, it will not work very well. So you need the moral basis, the moral purity for your meditation to work properly. So you have moral virtue, mental cultivation, both of these support you, prepare you to gain wisdom. Wisdom means to see the true nature of life so that you are really happy. So all the 3 trainings are complete. So there you see moral virtue as the basis. That's how it brings you to nirvana, by giving you that foundation to go step by step to reach higher and higher on the path, ultimately nirvana. And you remember at the start of our gathering today, I told you about the ground that we sit on. There are many things you can reflect as the Dharma, the very ground we stand on. Now, I don't know whether I told this last week or not. We heard stories about Devadatta. How did he die? He was swallowed up by the earth, remember? The ground opened up and the story when he fell inside. Very dramatic, no? Now, you don't have to take this story literally, but if someone tells you the ground under him gave way, I think you understand what that means. There is no more ground for us to stand on. In other words, to have good karma is to have this ground that supports us. And this good karma is based on your moral virtue. That's why the Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree. Maharaj challenged him, what good have you done in the past to sit under the Bodhi tree? And the Buddha touched the earth. That's why when we sit, we remember this earth. It's like we are calling the earth to witness. We say, well, okay, here we are. I'm sitting down here meditating. I've just recited the 5 precepts. Of course, there are many witnesses here. But then in the future, you notice when you have problems, you're always alone. I mean, no one here is going to come and rally around you, So you're by yourself, and Mara is going to challenge you. So you got to call the earth to witness, because the earth is always there. The earth represents your good karma. So whenever you come here, you keep the precepts, you do your meditation, you listen to Dhamma talk, the 3 trainings, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, all there fulfilled. And this what happens on the Uposatha day also. So do find out more about the Uposatha day. I've given you the details there, the title of the sutta, the number, and then the reference SD number 18. What is it? Yeah, 418. That means volume 4, chapter 18. And I've given you the, what they call that, link also. It's all available freely online. There might be some hiccups because we are migrating to a more affordable service provider, but I think it shouldn't be a problem. Go there, download the sutta, read it for yourself. Now, I always say, it is always blessed to read the sutta. If you are fresh and happy, wow, you really love the sutta. A lot of people ask me about suttas. And if you have sleeping problems, suttas are very good. Read it before sleeping. It's the last thing you remember, and you remember it well. I always read suttas if I can't sleep, okay? All right, on a happy note, I'll stop my talk so that you can ask questions, if any.
Thank you, Brother Piya for insightful talk. Shall we rejoice by saying sadhu 3 times? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So it's a Q&A time. Any brother, sister, any questions?
Brother Piya, thank you so much for the talk. Can I ask regarding the 6 precepts, right? That is to not take any meals afternoon. What would be the guidelines that is clear? Because okay. Across different countries, maybe it could be different.
All right. Well, it depends. Assuming you are good health, okay, no stomach problem and so on, right? Normally, 1 good meal a day should be enough. And you allow drinks in the evenings, for example, drinks. And the more generous teachers probably say you can have cheese, things like that. But don't take too much of that because you're also taking lots of stuff that makes you fat after that. So again, the choice of food is yours. Normally, we take what is given to us during retreats, everything prepared for you. Normally, we're vegetarian. Otherwise, whatever you get on the market, you buy, is okay. You don't really prepare yourself. Unless you're on your own. If you can also practice on your own at home, okay? Then you kind of imagine your house is like a forest monastery, maybe. and then you stock up some suitable food. In other words, again here, you decide what kind of food you want, okay? And the more healthy it is, the better, all right? So I'm not sure exactly what you want me to say. So what did I miss out?
Timing-wise, in terms of timing, is it
Timing,
predefined? Yeah.
Okay, timing. Traditionally, you start from the sunset, say today, until next day, sunset. Yeah, usually. But then some people come early morning the next day to the end of that day. So as long as you fix your time during that period, so mentally in your mind you say, okay, this is the time I'll keep the precept. Another way is when you are going to end your precept, you just go before the shrine or before the teacher, or you just mindfully recite to yourself the 5 precepts. Then you're back to the 5 precepts. So it is a mental thing. You tell yourself what is your status at that time, basically. Okay? Did I miss out anything?
Yeah, so that means for the morning meal, it will be like after the sun.
Yes, okay, yeah. The rule is sunrise to the sun is right overhead. So this is according to Vinaya, not our local clock, okay? Sunrise. That Vinaya defines sunrise as you stand in the open, you put your hand out like that, you are able to see the lines on your hand. Okay? Basically, you can see the sun coming up, all right? Again, here there are regional variations. For example, I was told like in Myanmar, like some of the monks even take as early as 4 a.m. and they define it as, it starts from there. So, but as I said, you decide. So the Vinaya says you put your hand out like that, you can see. So basically sunrise. And then it's noon, not 12 o'clock, noon. That's when the sun is right overhead. That's the cutoff point. Now in Singapore, I think the cutoff point is 1 p.m., not mistaken, because the time was kind of pushed ahead, right? So you can still see the monks sitting after 12, so it's before noon, right? So noon is when the sun is right overhead. So that's another thing you should note, all right? Although the sutta here says you take only 1 meal, but there is a latitude there. Normally the monks would take breakfast and then lunch. So it's still within that allowable time. That's how far you can bend the rules, yeah. So either you take 1 big meal or take 2 small meals, yeah. So important thing is you should feel your body. Do I need so much food? So you try to notice that. People who are not well, let's say they have stomach problems, yeah, of course you are allowed to take some kind of food that will help you to prevent the pain and so on, yeah. I have interesting stories where people who have gastric problems and so on, at first they were very worried, that when they wanted to go for retreats, they were determined to go, but they were worried that their stomach might, cause them problems. They went anyway, prepared with all kind of medicine and so on, and they are so happy that they found they don't have to take the medicine, they can still fast, and there was no problem at all with their gastric. So sometimes all these wonderful things can happen when you go for such an occasion. Okay.
Thank you, Brother.
Any other question?
Hi, Brother Tan. Thank you for the very inspiring talk. I'd like to ask a question about the 5 precepts. I understand that 5 precepts is the basic morality that is required to be reborn as a human form. Is that the correct understanding of?
Yeah, I would say precepts do help us to be reborn in happy states, not just human form, even higher forms. Keeping the precepts prevent us from falling to the subhuman states. That's one way of putting it. Falling us into the animal state, asura state, preta state, and hell being. I mean, why are these 4 mentioned? The animal world is basically full of fear, ignorance, right? So you don't have to become an animal, You can have an animal mind, full of fear, not interested in learning, living a very cyclic, predictable life, right? Asuras are very violent and exploitative. Those who look at others say, what is your value to me? So they don't care about you, they just measure you in terms of money, time, power, like that. So asuras are very exploitative, very violent. Pretas are very addictive. They can never have enough of anything. So then you have the hell beings are violent by nature. You see all these bombings here and there. Basically, it's a hell world. So these people, they are full of hate and violence. So this is aspects of even human life. They're not necessarily, you can think of them as separate planes, yeah, but they can happen in this life itself if we behave that way. So it is the mind that becomes those states. So in many ways, we can say we are not yet human, many of us, we are not yet human. We have a human body, yes, but we don't have a human mind yet. So we need to be humane at least. So the precepts help us to be humane. And then the 4 Brahmaviharas, the 4 divine abodes, help us to be more divine, raises that awareness higher to a higher level. Okay?
Thank you, Brother Tan. No, actually, the reason why I asked the question is because I've always been curious why we as lay people take so few precepts as compared to the Vinaya, which has so many more precepts. So I was thinking that is this just the base morality level that the Buddha wants us to keep so that we won't fall below?
Definitely. The 5 precepts are basic universal morality. It is called natural morality, pakati sila, natural morality. In other words, it is karmically potent, whereas many of the monks' rules are panati sila. Panati sila, that means conventional rules. They're like laws made by the government, but they are important for the monks because without these rules, how do you define a monk? So, but it is something introduced by the Buddha and by the monks later on. So we need all those rules because you have this, thousands of monks and you don't have rules, you're going to have a big problem, Right? Even with the rules today, you have problems, So the Buddha was very wise. He introduced one of the most systematic religious legal system the world ever saw. The 5 precepts are the most basic humanizing qualities that we can cultivate. Yes, you're right in a sense. It's the most important, most basic thing.
Thank you, Brother.
Brother, I got a question to ask.
Sure.
I consider gambling is more evil than stealing and telling lies.
Gambling.
Just wondering why this is not one of the precepts
okay.
that Buddha set for
Okay.
lay here.
Why is gambling not one of the 5 precepts? If you turn to the Sigalovada Sutta, there's a whole section on the precepts. Sigalovada Sutta is available on the website also. The Buddha lists the dangers of gambling. In other words, we should not be gambling. It is not specifically stated in the suttas, in the 5 precepts, because you don't see it going on everywhere. So it's not like universal as a killing, for example. So the Buddha is choosing 5 most important aspects of our humanity. But gambling is one of them. It is addictive, so you might say you can, in a way, put it under the 5th precept. So the 5 precepts are very basic. Others will be found in different parts of the suttas. They are mentioned there. Okay, so the Buddha is not, the 5 precepts are not like a big law code. Then it will be very difficult for the lay people, you see. So what the Buddha is giving is very basic rules first, and then later on, when you're not sure, you ask the teacher, you ask the monks, and they will explain to you further details on what can be done, what should not be done. So gambling is wrong, definitely, because it's addictive, loss of wealth, loss of respect. People won't believe you after that because a gambler, will take risk, so it's just not safe. And then it's difficult for them to get married, to have a family, and so on like that. Yeah. Yeah. So the Buddha is quite. We're quite certain the Buddha spoke against gambling. Okay. Yeah.
Brother Piya, what's your view regarding indulging in, like, for example, a little bit of wine once in a while, or gambling, or even buying 4D?
Oh dear. Okay. Right, that's interesting. Now, there's something very important I've got to tell you, especially for the monks. You must be very careful with the questions you ask them. Never ask them questions where you want to transfer your karmic responsibility to them. Very important. Don't do that. That's very unfair, you know. Okay? For example, can I kill mosquitoes or not? The answer is yes, you can. That's your karma, not my karma. Okay? So don't ask that kind of question. You've got to think for yourself, all right? Okay, this is not one of those questions, all right? Yeah, Chinese New Year, okay? If you gamble for fun and there's no all those high-stakes style, you're not going to kill each other after that, then it's okay. All right, just for fun, because it promotes fellowship and you know it's just a few cents and it's just fun, you know? I mean, you tell the Chinese community, don't gamble during Chinese New Year. It's quite tough, you know? Quite difficult. Some Chinese community, I mean the traditional Chinese community, I mean. Of course, I don't gamble and my family doesn't gamble. Drinking is tricky. Yeah, I was in the West for some time, you know, with Western Buddhists. So they did tell me, they said, wow, this fifth precept is quite tough, you know, because if you tell us don't drink, it's very hard for us to be Buddhists, you know. So what they did was they reinterpret the Pamadatthana aspect. Pamadatthana, the basis for heedlessness. So to them, they're not wrong here, they're quite right, in fact. In other words, you drink, but not to the point of being drunk, okay? For example, social drinking, so they have their limits. I mean, they always need wine for social, something social. In Italy, for example, in Italy, even in Scotland, they say we don't drink water, we drink wine. So that's one way they limit it, you see. So I mean, that's a start, all right? But during retreats, they are serious. They don't drink at all, right? So if you know that kind of limitation and you're determined that far, I think, with some sensibility, you should know what to do, basically. I'm not saying it's allowable, I'm saying you should know what to do, okay? Yeah, because the worst thing is to be quoted and Piya says it's okay to drink, and it did not say that, okay? All right? So there are cultural differences, cultural difficulties that who are new Buddhists have to deal with this, so we go step by step, all right? Important thing is don't get drunk.
Any other question? Any last question? No.
Oh, yeah, sorry?
Last week you say you want to mention about stream winning.
Oh, yeah, okay. What is the purpose of being a Buddhist? It's very important that we, as Buddhists, we have a kind of goal in mind, a purpose. Sometimes, I have a wonderful group of people in Kuala Lumpur, there are about 40 of them, who they met some really good monks in Malaysia, and they realized that after going to a temple for 20 years, all they've been doing is doing chanting, blessing chanting, dedicating, transferring merits, as they call it, There's no such thing, but dedicating merits, actually. And so on. So they say, is that all we do all our life? Then what happens to us, You go to heaven, you fall down again, so it's no big deal there. Then one of the monks there, local monks, not very famous monk, he said, the Buddha says, you should at least aspire to stream winning. We look at Samyutta chapter 25. And this is something I've been also noting as I translate the suttas, that it is not difficult to become a stream winner. You first aspire, say, by all this good I've done today, gathering here, I want to be a stream winner. It means you constantly practice reflection on impermanence. And if you go back and look up the Samyutta 25, S25, very easy to remember, quarter century. S25, there are 10 suttas there. All the 10 suttas have the same message. The Buddha says if you constantly reflect on impermanence, you will, whether through faith or through wisdom, attain stream winning in this life. So notice here, through faith or through wisdom, you attain stream winning in this life. I was not convinced even up to that point. Then the last line convinced me. The last line says, if not, definitely at the moment of passing away. So what we're doing here, we're creating this habitual karma of reflecting on impermanence. You remember we did the meditation, we say you breathe in, you've got to give it back, it's all impermanent. That kind of reflection, you find it's joyful. Isn't it? Then you say, wow, I would like to be a stream winner. So you reflect on impermanence regularly. Then the Buddha says, if you don't get it in this life, definitely at the moment of passing away. The passing away thoughts, you don't have control. It depends on what you have been regularly, habitually thinking about, reflecting in this life. So if you think of money, 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 then you'll be reborn as a preta. If you think, wow, power, 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 you'll be reborn as a asura, and so on, you know. Right? So if you think of impermanence, you get less attached to things. When things that you value are broken, you say, well, impermanent, and you don't get upset. So this group of 40 people, they said, they aspire to be stream winners. I say, wow, that's wonderful. So every year I go there twice to give them teachings. And they're really wonderful people because they are so serious about the practice of Buddhism and the goal of Buddhism. So I hope you all give it some thought, this idea of stream winning, read up more about it. Yeah, I know becoming arahats is difficult, but stream winning is the most meaningful thing for us to head for in this life itself. Okay? All right.
If not, let us thank Brother Piya for all the insightful talk by rejoicing and saying sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.